Story 1. If you establish yourself as a hard worker, everyone notices when you have a bad day and don't perform to your usual standard. Meanwhile, slackers are praised for performing slightly above average. Story 2. The pure joy I have when I find a curly fry at the bottom of the regular fries I ordered, but the absolute disgust I have when I find a regular fry at the bottom of the curly fries I ordered. Story 3. Wealthy people can take illegal drugs with no effect on their career or liberty. Story 4. Normal person files for bankruptcy to give themselves a fresh start, and they're being shamed for it. Rich person files for bankruptcy 8 different times, and no one blinks an eye. Story 5. I'm not American, but I know in the United States of America you cannot drink or buy tobacco until you are 21. Yet you can join the army and be sent to foreign countries to fight, buy a gun, or vote at the age of 18. Story 6. You are expected to know every law written, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. Police officers have qualified immunity and can cite ignorance of the law as an excuse. Story 7. How some groups think it is fine that they can do what they like, but others need to be told by them what to do. Some groups say, let's make a law governing how others behave, but woe betide anyone who tries to make laws governing how those groups behave. Story 8. The government can fail financial audits to the tune of billions missing with no accountability or consequences, but I have to explain deposits over $600. Totally ridiculous. Story 9. I lost my mother last year, and everybody said, tell me if you need any help, while completely avoiding us after the funeral and being avoidant when I actually asked for help. Also, my dad's friends, who told him all the things they would do for or with him, haven't even bothered to pick up the phone and call him since last summer. Opening. Story 10. People care much more for people they can relate to. A man wearing a suit collapsing on the street will get much more attention and immediate help than someone who looks foreign and homeless. Story 11. If you're working class or poor, everything you do with your money is selfish, whether you invest it or you spend it on consumer goods. Any additional money you earn is wasted on you and bad for the economy. If you're wealthy, everything you do with your money is good for the economy, and therefore inherently good. Whether you invest it, spend it on yachts, form charities so you can give your nephews jobs that won't hurt your core business, or spend it on politicians to cut the minimum wage, it's all good for the economy, and everyone should thank you. You earned it after all. Story 12. The idea that getting money without working for it is awful and horrible if you're poor, but cool and respectable and a just reward for success if you're rich. Story 13. Girls wearing feminine things? Yes. Girls wearing masculine things? Yes. Guys wearing masculine things? Yes. Guys wearing feminine things? You're gonna get beaten up if you enter the wrong alley. Story 14. Makeup. Some women are told or believe that in order to look professional, they need to wear makeup. I have never heard that said to a man or heard a man say that they don't look professional because they don't have their face on. It makes me sad when women apologize for not wearing makeup. One should never apologize for having makeup-free skin, regardless of gender. Story 15. Elon Musk openly smoked weed on camera and talked about taking other illegal drugs on the Joe Rogan podcast. Yet he still launches rockets and has just been brought into the president-elect's cabinet and entrusted to run a department in the federal government. However, a regular citizen wouldn't pass a security clearance or background investigation and interview to work for a government entity if they smoked weed. Story 16. There are always 50 wars going on, both bigger and smaller ones. But we only know and care about Ukraine and Palestine because the media constantly puts them on the screen. Story 17. Everyone is against slavery but owns phones built on the labor of exploited workers. Okay, sure they aren't technically slaves, just indebted for generations with terrible work conditions. Story 18. I work at a school where most of the staff are female. Everyone thinks this one male teacher is super creepy to the kids, but he does the same things the female staff do. He isn't doing anything different. It's so annoying to me that a man can't just be nice to kids without being seen as a creep. Story 19. That Viagra is covered by health insurance and most name-brand birth controls are not, even though Viagra is just for erectile dysfunction and birth control helps with a variety of female hormone regulation issues. Story 20. Women usually get punished less harshly for sexual crimes. A 30-year-old female teacher from a high school in my area was caught having sex with a 16-year-old boy, and nothing was done about it. No jail time, no arrest. People weren't mad at her, nothing. The age of consent where I live is 18, so she was definitely breaking the law. If a 30-year-old man had sex with a 16-year-old girl, they'd call for his execution. If a 25-year-old was involved with a 19-year-old girl, they'd call him a predator. But when women do it, they seem to always get a slap on the wrist. Story 21. In the United States, justice for the rich, celebrities, and politicians versus the rest of the population. A prime example that comes to mind is how Tyreek Hill was given a speeding ticket for going 90 in a 30. Then he has the audacity to demand the cop be fired. A regular person in that situation would have been arrested for reckless endangerment and their car impounded. Story 22. Poor people are told to have 6 months' worth of expenses saved up in case of emergencies out of their control and face harsh penalties for borrowing money. But big companies get huge bailouts funded by taxpayers for their own mistakes and often have loans forgiven. Story 23. That a man with 5 kids from 3 different women, all of whom he openly cheated on, can be elected president. A woman wouldn't even be considered for mayor with that track record. Story 24. If a guy can't go to a party or event because his girlfriend won't let him, everyone's like, fair enough. If a guy doesn't let his girlfriend go, he is considered controlling or abusive. Story 25. Infertility treatments are not covered under insurance, such as medications, doctor visits, intrauterine insemination, or in vitro fertilization, but erectile dysfunction medication and doctor visits are covered. So erectile dysfunction is considered more important, at least in the United States. Story 26. Mental health. Men are supposedly encouraged to be vulnerable, but show any sign of weakness and it will be weaponized against you. For women, I think that's going great. Story 27. How men are praised for being confident or assertive, but women who do the same are often labeled as bossy or aggressive. It's like the same behavior is judged differently just based on gender. Story 28. Work. We care about employees' mental health. Employees. How about letting us work from home so we don't have to travel in terrible traffic to your awful office? And how about paying us a livable wage so we aren't on the brink of collapse every month? Work. Laughing out loud. Story 29. Religion. If you tell someone you are speaking with your deceased mother, they might medicate you into a stupor and confine you in a padded room. If you tell them you converse with God, they might send you money, give you a tax break, and allow you to evade actions as serious as harming children. Story 30, for example, referring to certain behaviors as small-minded energy, is often excused as not targeting that demographic of men but rather only the behavior associated with the label. It is a rationale that still places a negative connotation on the demographic. Story 31. Women being strong, confident, and assertive is seen as bossy and unpleasant, but a man is considered a leader. A woman getting mad or upset over something is seen as erratic and unstable. A man is considered passionate. Honestly, I could go all day with the double standards when it comes to men versus women. Story 32. Pretty privilege. It's undisputed by science, something you can't control, and is also universally applicable. The corollary is what is truly insidious. If you're unattractive, you will have a worse life. And I say this as a moderately decent-looking person too. Even I am aware of how much better I am treated compared to someone who looks worse than me. Story 33. Western nations are enacting environmental legislation to reduce carbon emissions while others, such as China, continuously wipe out any progress with their own policies. Story 34. Rich people versus the rest of us, specifically around debt and how it's handled. Cannot cancel student loans. Unemployment checks during the height of the pandemic were taxed. But Paycheck Protection Program loans? All of them forgiven. Bank running out of money? Bailout. Socialism for me, but not for the oligarchs. Big corporation environmental violation? Slap on the wrist via a small fine that makes it cheaper to do the wrong thing than the right thing, so the wrong thing is built into the business model. Story 35. That presidents can commit felony-level crimes, and they get ignored, swept under the rug, and they get to keep their job. If I committed a felony, I would be jobless for the rest of my life outside of jail, or I would get to be a sanitation worker. Oops. All toilets. Story 36. A woman can live at home with her parents to save money, and us men truly don't care. If a man lives at home with his parents, he's an undateable deadbeat man-child loser. Story 37. How men are praised for doing basic stuff like cooking or taking care of kids, while women are expected to do it all and still get judged for not doing enough. Not trying to offend anyone, just my personal opinion. Story 38. When someone tells you that your cat that you had since childhood died, it's perfectly acceptable to say that you hate cats. Sometimes it's even okay to say that you've actually killed cats. But try to say that you don't like dogs and see how people react. Story 39. If a person approaches another person to compliment them, and the receiving party is attracted to the person, it's a positive experience. If they are not attracted to the person, it's a negative experience. Story 40. Rich versus poor. Donald Trump or any other billionaire plays the tax system or files for bankruptcy. They're just geniuses. Poor person does it trashy. Rich people get drugged up and act like fools. Oh, it's the pressures of being famous. A poor person does it, they are a scourge on society. You can pretty much get away with anything if you're rich. Story 41. Healthcare heroes until we say no to abusive behavior or need to eat or sit down. Pivot immediately to lazy and don't care about the patients or my personal favorite. Only in it for the money. Story 42. It doesn't matter what you do or how well you carry yourself. Some people will generalize and negatively judge you based on the traits they think you have due to belonging to a certain group. Story 43. Everyone wants friends or a partner, but everyone wants that person to look a certain way, like being skinny or good-looking. I watched this video where this guy went on several blind dates and really hit it off with one girl, and she liked him as well. But as soon as they saw each other, they had this look like, oh, you're not this stunning model, which is probably why they are single. Story 44. The way women are treated medically. Just a Tylenol after a cesarean section. Just a Tylenol for cervical biopsy surgery. Just Tylenol for Achilles tendon lengthening surgery. We are constantly dismissed, not believed, denied care, told we are lying about our pain, or that it is all just in our head. Medication is tested almost exclusively on men. Women are said to have a higher pain tolerance than men. I was never offered pain management during birth. Men go to the doctor for pain and fatigue, and their doctors do tests to figure out what's wrong. Women go to their doctor for pain and fatigue and are told, "Welcome to life. We aren't doing anything." Story 45. Vilifying an entire race and gender. You can be racist to white people, especially white men, but it cannot be the opposite. Cable news network can release a news article called, "There's nothing scarier than angry white men." If you replaced white men with black people, there would be public outrage and much consequence. Black people can openly say, "I don't like white people," and it's acceptable. A white person cannot say that about their own race without termination from their job, being deplatformed, and deemed a racist. I think both of these attitudes towards one another are disgusting. I don't feel that way about a race. It's bothersome that someone would judge me just because of my skin color too. Progress on race issues begins when everyone has the same social behaviors and mutual respect. Not when one gets a special license to be hateful, and the other is supposed to put up with it. Most things deemed racist are not about race anyway. It's tribalism, a very natural thing for all of us. People with cultural similarities will always predominantly flock together. Race is the first and most obvious commonality that makes a group of people flock together. In a diverse room, Christians will naturally flock together, blacks will flock together, gays will flock together, and so on. Everyone, without exception or even admission, is most comfortable with people that are most like them from physical appearance to politics, interests, and beliefs. There are countless studies on it. Instead of understanding and respecting the human condition, we normalize blaming and vilifying white people because they are the majority in the proverbial room. Story 46. The fact that the pro-life movement doesn't want murder, but is perfectly fine with allowing women to die because they couldn't get an abortion, or forcing an impoverished mother to have another mouth to feed. Story 47. The biggest one is probably that men can show their nipples, but women cannot. I say biggest because it seems to be the case across a lot of nations and cultures, but not all, obviously. Story 48. Looking at American politics, it appears interesting that Republican supporters of Donald Trump believe that Democrats are sheep and brainwashed by the mainstream media. However, historically and currently, the majority of uneducated individuals vote for Trump. Historically, the class of people who believe what others tell them while lacking the education to understand truth from fiction and actually understand policy are the sheep that get led to slaughter. Anytime a society has had a major revolution that made society a better place, it was rooted in reading things for yourself and getting the masses educated. It seems that in America right now, this isn't the case, and it is terrifying on a global scale just how unintelligent the majority seems to be. Story 49. CEOs are taking huge bonuses while workers struggle. There is no need for executives or management in most blue-collar jobs. They are just there to make you feel worthless. Wake up.